This is way better than we thought, as following what has been a wild offseason of moves for Rob Pelinka thus far, including Marcus Smart, all these different players. There is one in particular that is not only better than we thought following some new reports and new updates, but nobody is talking about. We're going to break down exactly what that is and discuss what it means going forward, as well as a few other updates, folks. Before we get into it all, if you're part of that percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, you guys have been absolute beasts with the support, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for that continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot to go over today, and of course, the Lakers have made their fair share of moves this offseason, whether that be Marcus Smart, whether that be, of course, we're going to talk about in a minute, Jake LaRavia, DeAndre Ayton. I'm going to be touching on Jake LaRavia today and some interesting things that have come out revealing that it is way better than we initially thought. Now, we think back to June 30th when he signed that 2-year, $12 million deal with the Lakers. A lot of fans weren't super excited because this was when free agency just opened up, all these different things. But folks, this is a player that not only are not a lot of people giving attention, it is better than a lot of us initially thought here. Like, he is a very, very good player. And I want to dive into some interesting stats that have been brought up, some interesting updates, and let's dive right into it. So obviously all the talk has been about them getting one more, 3-and-D player, someone like, guys, Herb Jones, players like that. Jake LaRavia, and despite the Lakers bench currently being a bit undecided, in his last 8 games of the 2023-2024 season, he put up 20 points a game on extremely good efficiency, shooting higher from the three-point line than he did from the field. And the last 3 games of the year, you can see there, 32 points, 28 points, 29 points. And I just want to bring this up a little bit, how this signing in particular for Jake LaRavia, it's better than we all thought. Because at this point, when it initially happened, I think us as fans, Lakers fans, expected a little bit more. And whether that was one of the big splash free agents, we think back to what Shams initially said at the start of the offseason about how the Lakers, every team in general, is going to be one of the most active, one of the crazier off seasons in NBA history. It ultimately was pretty crazy, but it's heavily front loaded. This is a guy that not only could have a huge impact off of the bench, which is something the Lakers desperately need, and we saw a lack of it last year, bench scoring, but could just have a huge impact going forward with this team. And as someone we know the Lakers were scouting for a while, and to get him at $6 million a year, it is an absolute robbery. And there's a few different things I want to dive into here. And of course, you can see here, you can't Jake LaRavia being an elite bench option this season. You look at some of his grades, his 2024-25 perimeter defense, which is something that no one is talking about surrounding Jake LaRavia. He graded out as an A- perimeter isolation defense, C+ ball screen navigation, which hopefully he won't have to do too much, but either way, C+, and then a B on ball, chaser defense, and then pretty good with lane steals and of course on ball plucks. Folks, this is a guy that, gonna be honest, and let me know down below in the comment section. This is something I'm curious about. How many of you were super familiar with Jake LaRavia's game before the Lakers signed him? And of course, I had a video on it back when they did sign Jake LaRavia. And I did a lot of research for this video. He's a much better defender than a lot of people think, whether that be on the ball, whether that be off the ball, whether it just be having good knowledge defensively. I think he'll be able to be someone who comes off the bench and isn't like Dalton Knecht, and no shade to Knecht, but isn't like Dalton Knecht in the sense of comes on, shoots threes, pretty poor defensively. He actually grades out pretty well on defense, and he's only 23 years old, and he shot 42.3% from 3 last year. Like, he's a sniper that's 6'7", is only 23 years old, and the Lakers managed to grab this guy in the middle of an offseason where, players like this you'd think would be more valuable, and especially ending the season the way that he did, looking at some of the, the reactions, of the fan base, they were pretty positive, of course, surrounding Jake LaRavia, but I'm still the more research I did, very, very interesting. Now, a couple other things I want to dive into. Yes, only 23 years old though, for those curious. You look at a couple different stats now. Let's dive into his stats last year with the Kings. He also played a bit with the Memphis Grizzlies here. So 6 points a game shooting, a combined, he shot 42.3% combined last year, career 37% three-point shooter. And this is a guy that started his career with Memphis, finished it with the Sacramento Kings. He's bounced around a little bit. When given a firm role, has graded out really well. And there's something I want to bring up that not a lot of people are talking about here. And that is the fact that, and pretty small sample size, but I don't think a lot of people are even noticing this. And it's something that I figure you guys would appreciate, right? Especially outside of, some of the trade videos I've done recently. But not a lot of minutes together, but opposing teams shot 26% from 3, 10% worse than league average when Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia were on the court together last season. Screenshot from PBR BP Stats, an excellent resource. Shout out to them. Link will be in the description, I believe, if I remember. And you can see this here. So Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia obviously played briefly together in Memphis. When they were both on the court together, and the Lakers now have both, they graded out extremely well and held perimeter shooting down on the opposition by a lot. And that's something that, well, A, I don't think a lot of people realized even that Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart played together last season with the Memphis Grizzlies. But B, LaRavia is a solid defender, and I've even discounted him a little bit, this year in my videos in the offseason discussing how, like, the Lakers bench defense is really bad and they need more bench scoring. Let's look at the bench, and you can see how it currently stands. Luka, Reaves, Rui, LeBron, Ayton, with Gabe Vincent, and then, of course, you'll have Jake LaRavia in there as well. And for some reason, obviously, you think he'll probably be in the bench unit. For some reason, in this graphic from CBS Sports, I don't believe he's in there. He will be the backup small forward or probably backup power forward. Now, throwing Jake LaRavia in here, right? He can be a guy who, we look back to his past last year, and again, the Grizzlies weren't great. Most of the time was without, they had a long stretch without John Morant, and then the Kings, weren't great either, kind of trading, all the Zach LaVine debacle. You give him a solid role, 20, 25 minutes a game off the bench. He can come in and help alleviate some of the pressure off LeBron and Luka, and who knows how much load management per se LeBron will need this year, whether that be, you're probably not going to miss a ton of games, but specifically with, getting minutes, Luka Doncic. LaRavia fits perfectly alongside Luka, and if he can be a capable 6'7" defender at the small forward, power forward position, you then have a guy who can stretch the floor, who can play good defense, and can fit alongside Luka Doncic like an absolute glove. And that's something I just don't think enough people are talking about right now. And whether they go ahead and they manage the lineups with this exact starting lineup, whether they, potentially start Marcus Smart, stagger Doncic and Reaves like I've been talking about, you have a guy in Jake LaRavia who's a lot more versatile than you thought. You can pair him with Marcus Smart to be someone who's very, very good defensively in a tandem that is valuable defensively off the bench, especially if Smart's coming off the bench. And it's just better than I think a lot of fans realize because he's not a household name. And again, I wanted to bring you guys some different content today because of the fact that, change things up from the trades, and also, Luka Doncic, he's obviously extended. We have the future of this team to a degree, and I think Jake LaRavia can be a part of that future. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that, and also let me know if you agree with this. Again, they're saying start Luka Smart, Reaves, Rui. Luka, Smart, Rui, LeBron, and Ayton with Reaves off of the bench with, of course, Jake LaRavia. I've been on that for a while. I think it makes the most sense. Some people are saying to start, start Reaves and Smart instead of Rui and have Rui on the bench. Either way, whatever way you want to dice it, I think having Smart in there is pretty important. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. Quickly, before we wrap up as well, I kind of just want to dive into a couple different things here. One article I dropped, new Lakers guard reveals why he chose LA over an East contender. And this is from a player overseas. And he basically talked about how he was fighting with the Bucks and the Lakers, trying to choose between which team to go for. I believe this is an Exhibit 10 contract. I believe it is. Training camp deal. And again, this player is not going to. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but either way, it kind of goes to show the Lakers culture. Said it was very strange. The whole period of uncertainty when I didn't know how things would turn out was tough. And then the Lakers option came along, but there's still a lot to prove and a lot to work on to earn the contract. He basically goes on to say that the Lakers gave him a great opportunity. He loves the organization, everything that they brought. Paraphrasing a little bit here, and that he trusted them more than the Milwaukee Bucks, which he didn't say that directly, but clearly the Bucks are fighting for him. So just a little interesting thing I want to throw at the end. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Do you think Jake LaRavia is going to have a huge impact? Not only that, did you know about this interesting Marcus Smart stat? Thank you guys for watching. See you later.